Mom and Dad are signing the house over to me. You get nothing. My sister announced it like a toast, standing at the head of the Thanksgiving table, wine glass raised, eyes glittering. Everyone cheered. Aunts clapped. Uncle Mark whistled. My mom beamed like she just won a pageant. My dad chuckled, knife paused over the turkey. The dining room smelled like butter, garlic, and victory that wasn't mine. I smiled, folded my napkin, and said calmly, Dad, should I tell them or will you? His fork dropped. The sound cut through the laughter like a gunshot. My sister's head snapped toward me, her smile cracking. Tell us what, she demanded. Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Blake. I'm 31. And if you think this story is about inheritance, it isn't. It's about the day my family finally learned who actually owned the roof over their heads. The house we were sitting in wasn't just any house. It was the house, the Blake family shrine. 2 stories of brick and ego with the front porch swing everyone loved to photograph and the mortgage nobody but me had truly seen. I stared at my sister Kelsey. Perfect hair, perfect teeth, the perfect life Mom curated like a Pinterest board. Ever since we were kids, she was the golden girl, and I was the responsible one. Translation, she got the praise, I got the bills. Kelsey flicked her hair. Seriously, Jordan, don't be weird. Mom and Dad just want everyone to know I'll be taking over. It's not personal. Right. Beside her, Dad cleared his throat. Eyes darted down to his plate. Mom's smile tightened a fraction. No one else noticed, but I did. I always did. Because 3 months before this dinner, there had been another signing. No wine, no speeches. Just the bank office, a stack of papers, and my name going exactly where they thought hers would be. 3 months earlier, the house didn't smell like turkey and cinnamon. It smelled like panic. Dad called me to his office, while the garage he'd converted into one because Mom didn't like the clutter inside. He paced the floor, hair messy, voice tight. Jordan, the bank denied our refinance. I frowned. Why? He handed me the letter. Missed payments, penalties, a balloon balance they couldn't cover. The golden Blake house, our Thanksgiving castle, was drowning. We need a cosigner, he said quietly. Kelsey? I asked, already knowing the answer. He laughed bitterly. Your sister? She can't co-sign a Netflix password. So he turned to the child he didn't brag about, the one with a career, the one with a credit score, the one who never said no. Jordan, help us. Just help us keep the house. And like an idiot raised on responsibility and scraps of affection, I agreed. I met the loan officer, sat in the stiff chair, and read every clause while Dad switched beside me until I reached the final section. I blinked. Dad, this makes me the primary owner. He froze. It's just wording. No, it wasn't. It meant the refinance deed would list my name first, making me the majority owner by legal default. Dad swallowed. It's temporary, he muttered, but desperation has a smell. And I smelled it all over him. I signed. He signed, and the house became legally, undeniably mine. Dad knew. Mom knew. They just assumed I'd never say it out loud, that I stay silent like I always did. Back at Thanksgiving, my sister tapped her fork against her wine glass. Jordan, stop dragging this out. What are you talking about? I leaned back in my chair and looked at Dad. Want to explain? I said softly, or should I show them the paperwork? The table went silent, the kind of silence that pulls the air out of a room. Dad's face turned the color of old paper. Mom shot her a warning glare, the kind that said, fix this before the guests notice. But the guests were already noticing. Uncle Mark raised his eyebrow. Aunt Linda stopped mid-green bean bite. Even the dog paused, as if sensing generational drama. Kelsey scowled. Dad, what is going on right now? I opened the folder slowly, theatrically, not out of pettiness, but because after a lifetime of being silenced, controlled pacing felt like justice. This, I said, tapping the document, is the refinance agreement from August. I slid it toward the center of the table. Dad needed a co-signer. The bank required someone with actual income, good credit, and no outstanding debts. Kelsey frowned in confusion. So, Dad co-signed for you? I smiled. No, sweetheart. I co-signed for them. Dad muttered. Jordan, that's enough. I continued. This document lists the new owner of the Blake residence. I turned it around so everyone could see. Gasps rippled across the table because right there under primary owner was my name, Jordan L. Blake, 62% ownership, and under it, James and Laura Blake, 38%. Kelsey grabbed the paper with shaking hands. No, this has to be fake. Mom, Dad, say something. Mom's face collapsed. Dad stared at the table like it had personally betrayed him. And then Kelsey screamed the only question left. What do you mean she owns the house? Kelsey's scream echoed through the dining room, bouncing off the chandelier like a fire alarm no one wanted to silence. The entire table turned into a row of stiff statues, forks frozen, mouths half open, eyes wide. Mom was the first to recover. She stood up properly, smoothing her dress like she could iron over the truth. This is a misunderstanding, she said through clenched teeth. Jordan is exaggerating. I tilted my head, then read the document out loud. Mom's jaw tightened. She didn't reach for it. Dad didn't either. Kelsey snatched the paper again, scanning it with frantic eyes. She's the primary owner. How? Why? This is my house. Funny, I said, because 3 months ago this your house was 3 weeks away from foreclosure. Gasps. A chair scraped. Uncle Mark coughed hard, choking on his wine. Kelsey blinked. For what? Dad shot me a death glare. Jordan, enough. No, I said calmly. Not enough. Just accurate. I slid another paper across the table. The bank's foreclosure warning. The red stamp was impossible to miss. Kelsey's voice cracked. Mom, Dad, you told me the house was secure. We didn't want to worry you. You didn't want to embarrass yourselves, I corrected. Dad exhaled sharply. We trusted you, Jordan. We thought you'd keep this private like you kept the truth private. Like you kept your future private. Like you kept your debt private. Silence spread again, but this time it didn't feel heavy. It felt honest. Kelsey's eyes filled, not with sadness, but with rage. So you're kicking us out, is that it? You're stealing the family home? I leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice steady. No, Kelsey, I didn't steal anything. I saved it. And I saved all of you from losing everything. I let the words settle, then added, soft but lethal. But since you made an announcement today, I guess it's time for mine too. Every head turned toward me. What announcement? Kelsey demanded. I smiled. The part Mom and Dad prayed I'd never say out loud. Every breath in the room felt suspended, like the walls themselves leaned in to listen. Kelsey slammed her palm on the table. Just say it, Jordan. What are you talking about? I folded my hands neatly, not rushing. Fine, I said. Let's talk about the other paperwork. Mom's face drained of color. Dad's hand clenched around his napkin until it tore, because they knew exactly what was coming. I reached into the folder and pulled out a second document, the one they hoped I'd misplace, the one they hoped I'd never understand. Dad whispered, Jordan, don't. I ignored him. This, I said, holding the paper up, is the letter the bank sent me last week. Kelsey frowned, confused. What letter? I slid it toward her. Read it. She skimmed the first line and went pale. Notice of delinquent second mortgage? Cosigner Jordan Blake? She looked up stunned. They took out another loan on this house? Without telling me, I nodded. They used my credit, my signature, my income reports. They forged half the paperwork to make it look like I agreed. The table erupted in shocked gasp. Aunt Linda covered her mouth. Uncle Mark muttered, "Holy wow." The cousins leaned in like they were watching a courtroom drama. Mom finally broke. "We needed the money. Your father had medical bills and the roof needed repairs." I held up a hand. "Don't lie." I pulled out the last page, a transaction record. The money hadn't gone to medical bills or roof repairs or emergencies. It went to Kelsey's wedding fund. Dress, venue deposit, hair and makeup, even her honeymoon. Kelsey's lips parted. "They used your credit for my wedding?" I nodded. "They planned for you to have the house and for me to pay for it." Dad slammed his fist on the table. "We had no choice." I met his eyes calmly. "You had a choice. You just didn't choose me." Kelsey stared at the documents, voice trembling. "So, what now?" I leaned back, letting the weight of the truth settle before I spoke. "Now," I said softly, "you're all dying to know what I decided to do about it." I let the question hang in the air like smoke. Everyone watched me, even the cousins who usually buried their faces in their phones. Kelsey's fingers trembled around the documents. Mom looked like she might faint. Dad looked like he wanted to flip the entire table. I took a sip of water. Slow, deliberate. "Here's what happens now," I began. Dad jumped in. "We'll fix it. We'll refinance again. We'll talk to the bank." "You can't," I said. "You're barred." He blinked. "Barred?" I slid another letter across the table. "After the forged document surfaced, the bank flagged you both for mortgage fraud review. They're freezing your access until the investigation closes." Gasps. Mom covered her mouth. Kelsey whispered, "Oh my God." I continued, calm, measured. "And they asked me, the primary homeowner, how I wanted to proceed." Dad stiffened. "You didn't tell them anything, did you?" I didn't answer, not verbally. Instead, I pulled out the final letter. This one carried weight. Even the envelope felt heavier. Kelsey's eyes darted. "Jordan, what is that?" I placed it on the table. I said, "A legal update. The one you should all hear." Mom shook her head. "No, you wouldn't." But I had. I opened the letter and read aloud. "Effective December 1st, full ownership of the Blake residence transfers to the primary lender, Jordan L. Blake. All secondary parties are removed from the deed pending investigation." Gasps. Mom covered her mouth. Kelsey whispered, "Oh my God." I continued, calm, measured. Dad stiffened. "You didn't tell them anything, did you?" I didn't answer, not verbally. Instead, I pulled out the final letter. This one carried weight. Even the envelope felt heavier. Kelsey's eyes darted. "Jordan, what is that?" I placed it on the table. I said, "A legal update. The one you should all hear." Mom shook her head. No, you wouldn't." But I had. I opened the letter and read aloud. Effective December 1st, full ownership of the Blake residence transfers to the primary lender, Jordan L. Blake. All secondary parties are removed from the deed pending investigation. Silence. Real silence. No forks, no breathing, no excuses left. Dad whispered, "We lost the house." I nodded. "You lost the house months ago. You just didn't know it until tonight." Kelsey's chair scraped back violently. "You mean Jordan owns everything and we get nothing?" I met her eyes. You got my credit, my money, my silence. Now you get consequences. Mom suddenly grabbed the edge of the table. You can't throw us out. This is our home. I leaned forward. Not anymore. Their faces twisted. Shock, disbelief, panic. And then I said the one sentence that broke the entire room. You have 3 days to move out. The room didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. Kelsey's mouth opened, closed, opened again like a fish yanked out of water. Mom stumbled back into her chair. Dad went red, then white, then something in between. You can't be serious, he whispered. Oh, I'm completely serious. 30 days. That's the legal notice. Kelsey slammed both hands on the table. This is my house, my inheritance. They promised it to me. I tilted my head. Yes, they promised you something they didn't even own. Mom lunged for the paperwork, flipping through pages as if the truth might magically change if she read fast enough. No judge will allow this. No bank will support this. They already have, I said. I slid the email printout across the table, the one from the bank's legal department. It said one thing: primary owner retains full authority pending investigation. Dad clenched his jaw. You're doing this for revenge? No, I said, softly. If I wanted revenge, I'd let the fraud charges finish. Then you'd have more than 30 days to worry about. Gasps rose again, louder this time. Uncle Mark wiped his forehead. Jesus, Jim, what did you do? Mom snapped, stay out of this. He raised his hands. Hey, I'm just trying to figure out why your daughter has a legal case and you'll have a casserole dish. Kelsey turned to me, tears welling, but anger stronger. You're punishing us. Admit it. I looked right at her. You humiliated me tonight, publicly. You all assumed I was nothing, and you were comfortable taking from me as long as I stayed quiet. Silence again. Heavy. Real. Then I added, I didn't create this disaster. I just stopped cleaning it up. Dad whispered, voice cracking. Where will we go? I shrugged gently. Anywhere you like. Just not here.